Three, two, one. Thank you guys for coming back. 26 Sports. This is episode 16. I'm on with the man, the one and only Abraham Gonzalez from New York Fights. How you doing today, man?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just here enjoying another day. How you doing?
Good, man. That dad life.
Yeah. Yes. Before you guys got on, my daughter was out here running in the background. So yeah. So man, let's get into it, man. I know we've been missing boxing, full combat sports for a while. We got it back over the last 8 weeks now. So what did you see from the top ranked cards that really, surprised you, and what didn't surprise you from those cards?
So from the top ranked cards, I was a little surprised about how many of the positive COVID tests came out. That was something that, with everything that's new, with this whole process and the whole bubble thing and everything,
Yeah.
you just didn't know what was going to happen. So it kind of surprised me there was that many positive tests, and but I think it was just more so them just figuring things out, and kind of going from there. I knew that the unknowns were going to get a shot. That's something that I wrote about leading up to those top ranked cards. I said, hey, this is going to be the opportunity for those guys that don't have the name out there to get a
Yep.
shot on national TV, get that exposure. Because even though they didn't do big numbers, you might get the random person that may buy into the story of that fighter. Maybe not like boxing, but buy into that specific story, and then now all of a sudden you got a fan of that person. So that was one of the things that I was kind of expected from that. And the fights itself, they were okay. There was a couple of good ones in there. I was telling people about that Joshua Franco.
Hmm.
I told people that he was going to be super prepared for that fight, and so he showed out, and the rest is history. But overall, I think they did okay.
Yeah, I like the cards. I know they weren't the biggest names, the most thought of competitive matches, but we saw some good upsets. I mean, the story of Clay Collard, unknown, but now he's like a little cult hero. Then we have, as you said, Joshua Franco. I tell people I called that. I called that fight. I was thinking he's gonna pull the upset. As soon as the odds came out, I said there's too much of a gap there. There's no way he is not supposed to be. It was supposed to be more competitive in the bets, and it wasn't. So I gave him the go ahead. I said I think he's gonna win, and he pulled it off. And I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better kid. And now the rematch is coming, so that's something for down the road where you think, wow, that first fight was competitive. Let's see how the rematch goes. So as you said, I mean, they did pretty good for the amount of fights, the COVID positive results. Yeah, that was a bit more shocking. I'm actually surprised there wasn't more weight issues, like more people actually missing weight because of the whole COVID thing. I actually expected to be a lot more, and there was, I believe, what, three or four only. And still not good,
Yeah,
but
but I think that a lot of that was the fact that they weren't like set. Hey, you
mm,
got to make 135 or whatever. There was a lot of 137 or 129 or 125. So
yeah,
yeah, they made it per the contract weight, but I would say the vast majority weren't like no kidding at the limit of the division type of thing. And
that's
maybe that's
true.
why it didn't they were able to quote unquote make it a little easier.
And that just makes it worse for the people that did miss it because you were
Yeah,
given leeway. I mean, the
yeah.
one that was gonna fight Mariaga missed it by 9 pounds. That's ridiculous. Like, even under normal circumstances, to miss a fight by 9 pounds is insane. So
Yeah, he wasn't trying to fight.
yeah, I mean, what Ryan Sangala, I think, said that he told him, "Oh, I'm 10 pounds out," and it was a week and a half or something above, and then he still showed up 9 pounds. It's like, well, what do you do? Just sit down or go to the bathroom on the way to the weigh-in? Yeah, it's
I think at some point he said the hell with it. The
yeah,
cut might have been too deep, and he just chugged some water and said, "Here goes
yeah,
nothing."
yeah. Let's see where I weigh. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then of course the issue with Jamal Herring's COVID testing was terrible for him. I mean, positive, comes back, false positive. Mrs. Michaela Mayer, I mean, she got the big shine because of it, but also because she had a positive that turned out to be a false positive as well. So it's charting in uncharted territories right now with it. But
Yeah.
hey, they made it work, and it's impressive, especially seeing what happened in baseball today with so many players and coaches testing positive, knowing that the bubble concept in essence really works compared to just hey, fly from state to state, city to city, and run the risk. So it is what it is, but I'm happy that they were able to do that. It brought it back, and then this last weekend, I mean, it was a real. It had that feeling of normalcy. We had the fights last Tuesday, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was pretty cool, to have that little feel. So I'll get into the Friday card, man. What do you think? And I know this answer, but I'm asking for everybody else. What do you think of Vergil Ortiz?
Man, Vergil Ortiz is ready, man. That guy is ready. He was ready the minute I saw him at the Velasco Theater blow that dude out on ESPN. I knew that kid was ready. He's ready.
Yes.
He's ready for the next step. And I said it. I was trying to hammer it on Friday. He is ready for some Keith Thurman. Ready. He is ready, and I think that's the fight. I would love to see that fight if they can make it happen. But with all the politics and everything, I don't think that that happens. My friend Fern suggested maybe a Jesse Vargas. That could possibly be a situation like a name or something. But Keith Thurman don't have a dancing partner, and unless he's fighting Crawford or somebody like that, he's gonna be without an opponent until next year sometime. So why not? But I'm sure for him to even take that chance against a young guy like that, he's gonna want to get paid.
Yeah.
So and that's where we run into the problem. And it's not 1 or 2 million. He's gonna want like $5 million. And will they put up $5 million for him to fight Vergil Ortiz?
Not right now.
Yeah, not right now. So,
No. But Thurman does need a fight. I love that idea because he's gonna be testing himself against a legitimate world-class fighter. But what do we have? What do we see that we have left of Thurman? He's been so inactive. He's injured, and the last time he fought, he was really beaten up by Pacquiao. So that's a hard one to go with. But I love that idea. Jesse Vargas, I think I heard that they're too good of friends that it would be really hard for Ortiz to do it. I would love to see him personally. I would love to see the Danny Garcia fight, but I know Garcia's not gonna do that when he got Errol Spence. Other ones though, hey, if he wants a Crawford fight, test himself against a Mean Machine. If anything else, Rashidi Alice, should he win his fight, that's a good one against two real good contenders from Golden Boy. Let's see those. I would love to see that if he can't get the Thurman win, which honestly I don't expect. Or if anything, go with Ugas. I would love to see Yordenis Ugas get a shot.
yeah, but Ugas is lined up for a title eliminator.
Oh, again, that's right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Everybody's booked up. Ugas is booked up. All the names are booked up except for
Porter.
Thurman.
Porter.
Porter's now booked up. So, that's going to be tough. And all the other guys that are in those top 7 names, the ones that are left, they're from other countries that nobody really knows. Not saying that they're not any good. I'm just saying that for him to further develop his profile and make his name even bigger, he's got to get a bigger name.
Yes.
And no disrespect to Rashidi Ellis, but what does that do for him if he beats him? I think that we're at a point right now. He needs to really no kidding, go after the big names, and maybe it's Crawford. But I know that it sounds like the Ramirez Taylor, one or the other or both is going to be for Crawford in the next year or two. So we'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
how that goes. It'll be interesting though.
yeah. I would love to see it, but I also want him to test himself against a top contender before going straight into a title shot. Just because, as we know too as well, with some of these contenders, they've waited so long to get that title shot that to me it wouldn't just be right to put Ortiz there, even though I do feel that he's ready for a title shot. I think of how Sean Porter was there after his losses and kept fighting top of the line contenders and had to wait and wait and wait until he finally got the title shot again. Same as Ugas, it took him forever to get the shot with Porter, gets the disputed loss, and now he's, as we said, he's going to Eliminator again. So it's, I want to see Ortiz there. I feel he deserves it, but I don't know if he should jump that high over anybody unless it's an optional defense and someone gives him a shot. Then hey, I'm all for it. Now, I know we have, we all seen it what Sinise Super Bad did to Adkins, and I've heard a lot of people talk down about it, and I understand it, I get it, but also in the time that we're in right now, it's hard to really be that down on it because of the time we're in. As they said, it was a last minute replacement. They looked. The only person to answer was Miranda Atkins, and it looks terrible. I mean, she was beat up quickly, but she did post something and say she's okay, she's fine. She accepted a challenge and she lost, and that's it. What was your thoughts on it when it happened, and now after a few days, has anything changed for you?
So I think I didn't like it. It was a bad knockdown, right? Or knockout, I
Yes.
should say. But we have to think about a couple things. One, women who compete in boxing, that's already slim pickings.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot of them out there. The really good ones, some of the upper echelon ones, don't live in the United States.
Exactly.
All right, so trying to find a super competitive person in that weight class that lives in the United States, that's a needle in a haystack.
Yep.
And so what happens is you get whoever is available and who's is a professional. She had 4 fights, professional fights, so she's a professional. She has a boxing license and everything. So and that happened. Should she have been in the ring with somebody that as seasoned as Sinicia? Probably not.
Nope.
But that's on her team for taking that fight. We don't know. We don't know where her situation is, being like financial situation. There's some folks that don't have jobs out here. So if it's a situation where I can make a check, I already do this kind of professionally,
Yeah.
and I can get in there, then that's just what it is. And reading her backstory, she was a cancer survivor and all that. You don't know how those bills look.
Yeah, exactly.
And those could be 100,000, 200,000 worth of bills, and who knows if she's even recovered from that. So I can't knock her for taking the fight. The
Exactly.
result was not what we wanted to see for somebody, but at the end of the day, she chose to do that. She signed up for that, and she knew what she was getting into. So just can't knock her for that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I can't be mad.
Yeah. My thought was probably the best outcome was what happened, honestly. Because imagine if she had a stronger chin or would have moved, it could have been 6, 5 somewhere rounds of just a prolonged beating because she didn't belong in the ring with Sinisa, but she, as you said, she took the fight. You never know what those bills are, especially at this point in time. So I mean, if we were put in that position and someone said, "Hey, you have some experience boxing. Here's 20 or 30,000. Go right here and throw a fight real quick and see what happens." Okay, let's go. I mean, that's really what's going to happen because it's quick money for something that you know what you're doing, except you went in there with a world class fighter, and that's the part I think a lot of people miss is that at the point we're at right now, it's slim pickings in the women division as it is, and she said, "Screw it, let me make some money." Um, I'm happy that she's okay. And honestly, as I said, that was probably the best outcome, was that quick knockout, so it wasn't a prolonged beating. I I don't hold like anger towards anybody, but also the commission should have checked that before and should have been like, you know what, we're not gonna let this go. I commend Andy Foster for him actually looking at it and say we shouldn't have done it, owning up to the mistake. A lot of people would have, tried to just play it off, but no, he owned up to it and said, I wouldn't have done it. So I give him props for that. But it is what it is. She's okay. Sinisa got a shout out from LeBron James, on Instagram. So, I mean, as we say, women's boxing deserves more shine. It deserves to get more play. I mean, you got one of the most famous athletes in the world shouting you out. That's a good start. Because now people are going to be like, oh, when does that girl fight again? No, the one that 7-second knockout. Oh, yeah, she's on this card? Okay, let's tune in. And now you have something there. And the good thing is it wasn't worse than what it looked. At first, honestly, I was scared. The way she fell and how she looked, I was like, man, I hope she's okay. And then when I seen her, like, get up and look around, I was like, okay. But, props to Sinisa. She did what she had to do. And she got some viral play out of it. And now, people are calling her out for it. The champions are coming out saying, hey, see me, it's supposed to be the other way around. She's supposed to be calling for it. And now they see that they could make something off of her, so they're calling for it. So, hey, let's get it going. I hope she matches up with anybody. If she gets the rematch with Marlon again, I'd love to see that as well. So,
yeah.
So,
no, go ahead.
No. I mean, the card by itself, though, for Golden Boy was a decent card. I know Evan Sanchez was on there. Fought a tough veteran. I thought he was going to knock him out, but hey, I mean, it's a tough guy as well. Kenda's a legit borderline gatekeeper, so that was a good performance, especially being so early in Evan's career. If it was maybe 15 or 16 fights in and he did that, I'd kind of be more questioning of it. But to do it at, I believe, what's 8 or 9 fights now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's still not at 10, so he fought a tough guy who's been in there with real tough competition and pretty much sweep the rounds. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then Saturday's card, I mean, Joe Joyce was in there against someone who was there to be knocked out pretty much. I didn't take too much from it because, I mean, the guy did what he had to do, keep going toward the Du Bois fight. But when you look at Joe Joyce, what do you see in him? To me, I consider him a legit fighter, but I don't see him a threat to the top guys in his division. That speed that he has just doesn't do it for me when I look at him fight. When I think of Joshua and all of them, it's just real hard to put him up there.
Yeah, so Joe Joyce, I didn't see the fight on Saturday, but I've never been a fan of him. I've never been a fan of Joe Joyce. I think he's slow, and I just think that against, like if you put him in against a Wilder, I just don't see him like doing anything against him. Yeah, he's got the punching power and stuff, but he leaves himself open a lot, and I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. I'm not overly impressed with a Joe Joyce. Like, I'm not running to the TV to watch him.
Yeah.
I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, and it's not to talk down on him. It's just, as I said, his speed. When I look at, I think of Andy Reese's hand speed compared to him. Andy Reese is going to be lighting him up if they were to ever fight. That's just the way I see it.
100%.
Yeah, and again, it's not a knock on him. I do consider him a legitimate fighter. It's just I don't see him as a top 5 or top 6. But then again, maybe he surprises us and does something.
Yeah, and I mean, he can. Yeah. I just need him to be in there with some better competition.
Yeah, that's what it is. And hey, maybe we'll get that when he fights Du Bois. That's, or I can't say his name, but yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Dubois. There you go. Well, when they do fight, I mean that's probably gonna be his first legitimate test. So we'll know something there.
Yeah, and he's gonna have his hands full because Dubois got some punchy power
Yeah,
too. So, and we still don't know about Dubois either.
exactly.
So, it's two guys that are out there to prove themselves that they are somebody that one of the champs can take on,
Yeah,
and hopefully that's what we get, and not still like after their fight undecided on whether either one of them should be with a champ.
exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
hey, it's something to look at. So hopefully it does happen, just so we get a little better idea of them. But we'll see. I did read something where they said it might be pushed back a little bit further again. So I mean, that fight doesn't really have too much time to marinate because people will just look over them and keep going. There's a lot of
Yeah,
names in
and
heavyweight.
yeah, but I think that they're pushing it back because they came out the news saying that the UK bought X amount of millions of
Yeah, the vaccine.
the vaccine and stuff. So I think that they're under the impression that they're going to have access to that and be able to maybe stage a fight with fans sooner than we can over here. So
Yeah,
I think that's probably their thinking. So they just kind of push it back a little bit to hopefully get to that.
yeah, and hopefully we do. So, hey, something starts pulling up. I
Yeah.
enjoy watching the fights, but it's kind of eerie seeing no fans there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, with a lot of the guys that are still making names for themselves, when they fight on a regular arena, they're usually there. There's only about 100, people in the stands anyway.
Yeah,
And so a lot of those guys are probably used to that because when they're fighting, there's hardly anybody in there, so they don't really see a difference. But when you start getting to guys that can pull in 2,000, 3,000 fans at their fights, and then there's nobody there, that's a little
yeah,
bit of a different story.
yeah. So, I mean, did you watch the card yesterday, the Thompson Boxing card?
No, I didn't because my wife had other plans for me, and she had me building a dining set for a couple hours.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was a pretty solid card. I mean, I know they had technical difficulties early in the card that people were tweeting about, but it wasn't bad, and I enjoyed it. We were able to get some fights on the Sunday, and a few of us actually covered the cost for a few people so they could order it as well. So it was pretty cool to do that. Planning to do that for the next card. I was very impressed with Ruben Ace Torres, though. I mean, he put on a show and he closed it. It was a tough fighter he was in with Bravo, but he ended it well.
And I've seen him fight before.
Yeah,
He's a good fighter. So them Thompson stable, they have some really good fighters. And I think that with this pay per view situation and just them streaming, they'll get a little more viewership and get a little more exposure for those guys
yeah,
because they really deserve it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, and look who they've brought up. It's been brought up of Daniel Roman, Mauricio Herrera. They've gotten some good people out of there. So, hey, this is perfect for them. Obviously the fans and all of like people were saying the nachos, the beer, the T-shirts, the merchandise that they have, but the little pay-per-view helps get the fighters some shine, and I liked it. Michael Dutch ever recovered perfectly from his earlier loss, so it was good, and people reacted to it well, and then the way Beto Duran and Douglas Fisher interact with the fans is always a good thing because they talk back with the fans, tweet with them, shout them out during the broadcast. So that's always a good thing. So I really appreciated it, and it was pretty good. And Thompson does
And
have a
those
good schedule.
and those streaming events, they're going to. It's not gonna be perfect all the time
Yeah,
unless you're like a multi-million-dollar company that's putting it on. There's always gonna be little hiccups in the beginning until it gets going. But once it gets going, then it should be fine.
yeah, and that's what happened. It was the first fight. By the time Ruben fought, it was clearing up, and maybe by about the third and fourth round, there was really no issue no more. So it was pretty good. And then shout out to Thompson Boxing because they did acknowledge that there was issues. They were writing back to fans and saying that it was being worked on. So a lot of other people would just ignore it or won't even post about it or respond. Just work on it and go forward. They were responding, talking, and did everything they had to do. So it was a good card.
Yeah, and that's important. That's important that they acknowledge that
Yeah.
and they interact because these are the same. They have to understand these are the same people that may or may not have a job. If they have a job, they have they may be at a reduced income, so they're
Yeah.
shelling out even if it is $6. They're shelling out $6 of their money, hard-earned money,
Yeah.
for this pay-per-view. So giving them the time of day is something that you got to do it. You
Yeah.
have to do it.
And yeah, and I've seen the reactions that the fans were getting when they would say, "Hey, there's an issue," and someone would say, "Hey, we're working on it. We're doing everything." When they clear it up, they're like, "Oh, thank you," and then next thing you know, it's clear and everybody's writing them, "Hey, issues fixed. Thank you guys so much." So it was really good to see that. And as I said, that once they have their next card, I believe they said the first week of September, definitely gonna purchase that again.
So are they going with straight pay-per-view going on moving forward?
I believe so for the next one. It will be more than likely. We'll see where we're at. Hopefully things are a little better or a lot better, so we could go from there and hopefully um, see what we can do.
Yeah.
Um, Also, one of the big things last week was the announcement of the Showtime PBC cards, which had some really interesting fights there.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Charlo brothers sharing the card, and they're in against some real legit competition there.
Hmm.
Um, I like personally the Nonito Donaire and Albali fight. That's a real under the radar fight, I think, for people. I'm not the biggest fan of the Tank and Leo Santa Cruz fight. Uh, if it was at 135, I think that's a little too much for Leo. At 130, I believe it's a little closer, but I don't know if Tank can make 130 anymore. Normally, like I don't want him to be drained or not be himself in there either in the fight. So hopefully he's able to make the weight right and we see a good fight. But of course, we'll go into the Charlo brothers. Which one do you think has the most likely shot of a loss?
Ooh, man, you put me on the spot there with that one. I want to say the Jamel and the Rosario Banana Man.
Yeah.
That one is going to be tough, but it's hard to say because I haven't. Confidence is a hell of a thing,
Yep.
and Rosario has got all the confidence in the world right now after beating J Rock, and so that's a thing, man. You'd be surprised what that could do to a fighter. So I think that makes that fight super competitive, and he may very well come out with the win. The Jamal and Derevchenko, I think that there's a little bit more of a gap in there. I think
Mm-hmm.
uh, that Triple G fight took a lot of Derevchenko, and I think Jamal will capitalize off of that. But I think the Jamel and Rosario, that's the one that has the makings of an upset. If I had to pick from the two,
Yeah, I want to say the same, but to me, I'm not sure if Rosario didn't have the perfect opportunity when he fought J Rock. Uh, J Rock was, as you said, the confidence was high, but he just got caught and couldn't recover, which we've seen the other time he fought Jamel Charlo, I believe, right? And when J Rock is on, I believe he's one of the top 3 or 4 fighters in the division. I just think that night he got caught, and obviously Rosario, I mean, did what he had to do and close the show. Um, but what is he gonna do when Charlo connects a shot on him? How is he gonna respond? Because I believe Charlo can take his punches early. We'll see middle to late. And Charlo's been in those. Well, I mean, to an essence, a dogfight when he fought Harrison this last time. It was a really good fight, and he broke him down. Now, Jamal with Derevchenko, as you said, it depends on what was taken out of Derevchenko because, I mean, he does have Jacobs and he has Torino Johnson and Gennady Golovkin. And the Jacobs and Golovkin fights, They were close, but he was knocked down in both. Took some hard shots. Who knows what he has left, especially at the age. I know he only has 11 or 12 fights, somewhere around there. But who knows what those punches took out of him. So I would agree with you. But if the Derevyanchenko shows up that fought Golovkin, it's gonna be a long, long night there as well. But that's the interest of that card is you're like, man, they're really in there with some dogs. They're really in there with some top line fighters. So it adds and it makes you pumped up for the fight. And real quick, Jonathan, I see you, Jonathan Lear and Marisol. What's up? Both give a shout out to me and you, Abe. So giving them a shout out back.
Ringwalk John, what up?
Yep. So yeah, as I said, that's going to be a good card. Out of that whole schedule, besides those fights, what was the one that maybe piqued your interest more?
Well, I mean, it's hard to overlook that Charlo one.
Yeah.
I do like the Tank and Leo fight because I think that Tank needs this fight.
Yeah.
Tank needs this fight in a sense where he needs that marquee name, to solidify, hey, that he's legit. Not saying that he isn't legit. He's a legit fighter, legit power.
One of the best.
He's got it. But he doesn't have a Santa Cruz in his box rec. Yeah. So I think that this is going to be the one that makes it or breaks it. Now, the other thing is he hasn't fought a guy like Santa Cruz that throws 1,000 punches. Mm-hmm. Not saying 1,000 connect, but when you're seeing 1,000 punches, yeah, the volume, you're seeing 4 or 5. You almost think that Santa Cruz has 4 or 5 hands because they're coming from all types of different directions. So the question is going to be mid to late rounds. If it goes that far, how can Tank take that? Moving backwards, getting hit with those punches. Because in his last fight, I think it was there was 1 or 2 rounds when he only threw 4 punches or 5 punches, something like that. So that's going to be the real question. Can he do that? Now, I don't think Santa Cruz is stupid. I think that he is going to come in kind of fighting like the way he did on the second Frampton fight, where he didn't get into the phone booth with Frampton, kind of stood from the outside, utilized his jab, used smart pressure, only got into mixes in certain instances. I think that's the Leo Santa Cruz that we're going to see. And if he can do that without getting in trouble, man, that's going to be a hard guy to beat.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing for me, though, is what version of each fight are we going to get? Are we going to get the Gervonta Davis that struggled with Gamboa? Or are we going to get the one that beat up Pedraza? Are we going to get the Santa Cruz that had the great fights with Abner Mares, where he won clean and decisively, but they were still good competitive fights? Or are we going to get the one like in the first Frampton fight where he looked a little surprised and a little bit out of his element? And we've seen sometimes he does get into exchanges that he doesn't need to. He has the length, he has the boxing skill to keep you at bay, but he also has that Mexican heart where you hit me, let's go, let's see who's going to win this. And I don't think he could afford to do that with Tank, because Tank has that name for a reason. He punches like a tank. So it's just really going to depend on which one shows up. But if both of them show up at their best, it should be a great fight.
Yeah, and I think that Leo's a smart fighter. If he catches one of those punches and feels like, man, this guy hits harder than I think that I can handle.
Yeah,
he's not going to get in there and mix it up like that. He's a smart fighter. He's been in there with world-class fighters. Yep. He's not going to make those type of mistakes, and don't expect him to either. I wouldn't expect him to.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to him. People have been down on him for his opposition. I mean, he's going from high C level, low B level fighters to one of the best fighters, the best young fighters in the sport in Tank. I mean, that's a big jump up from where he's been at. So you got to give him respect for it. And again, for Tank, I mean, he's fighting a guy who he should be the favorite against. But again, that volume, that volume is what causes pressure. Pressure busts pipes, as we all know. So let's see what comes
That's
out of
right.
that.
That's right.
Okay, so I got a question here from Knockouts with Nika. KO Merc, what's up? She says, what's up?
Hey, what up?
And now she wants to know if you think it's pay-per-view worthy, and I'll give my answer, but she wants to know, do you think it's pay-per-view worthy?
Which one?
The Leo and Tank.
Leo and Tank. I think it is right as of right now. Now, pay-per-view worthy $80 or pay-per-view worthy $40? Two different things.
Yeah, I agree. And especially in this time.
Yeah, I think pay-per-view worthy $49.99. Yes. $80? No.
Yep.
But then also we haven't seen what that undercard is going to look like either.
Yeah.
So they haven't filled that in. And if they're going to do pay-per-views every month for the next 5 months, then you best believe there's going to be some marquee names on that undercard.
They have to be, because there's no way, especially when we look at this. Teofimo Lomachenko is October 3rd, supposedly. Wilder and Fury 3 in December. We don't know what's going to happen in November yet. September, I believe. Well, there you go, the Charlo card. That's so many pay-per-views really jammed in, besides what we don't know what's going to happen yet. At the fact, too, as well, ESPN subscription, the Zone subscriptions, that's a lot of money to be selling out, especially, as you said, to the people with reduced income. So, $80 worthy, even if it's a stacked undercard? No. 50 to maybe 60. If it's a stacked undercard, I could get on board with that. But it has to be a worthy stacked undercard, not just, hey, let's throw this name in against this guy that used to be good. Let's throw this prospect in against this lower level fighter. No, you're going to have to stack that card. Maybe even old Don Key days when we used to see champion against champion. So, hey,
I wouldn't mind Andy Ruiz against Chris Arreola as the co-main event.
I don't like that fight, but I could see it. It depends too. If we get Arreola, who fought Kulawaki, and we get Ruiz from Joshua one, oh yeah, that could be a great fight. And I think it's gonna be good regardless, because once Arreola gets hit flush, he doesn't just let me box. He's like, okay, we're in the street now. Let's see how this goes. So I could see it, because it's gonna be a fan friendly fight. Personally, I want Ruiz to go in there against Ortiz, but looks like reluctancy on both sides at the moment. So hey, if that's the fight we got, then I'll take it. But I don't like it too much, just because Arreola has also been very inactive. But hey, if he shows up how he did last fight, then I'll take it. Now, with all these cards coming back now more and more, do you feel, now this is one question I've always had, after what he did, Ryan Garcia, do you feel like he may have missed his shot?
No, man. Not at all.
And I don't mean like, his hype is going to die. That's not going to die. He's got all this. But do you feel like how Vergil Ortiz, you've seen as soon as that fight was ended, it was, hey, Vergil Ortiz against this guy, Vergil Ortiz against that. Garcia's name seems to be like, oh, what about Ryan? As opposed to, hey, who do you want to see Ryan against next? We hear the Luke Campbell fight. Hopefully it gets done. But now it's 2 more months of more of Vergil Ortiz. And then when Linares fights, it's going to be, remember he was supposed to fight Ryan? As opposed to, hey, Ryan Garcia showed up on 4th of July and put on a show. Hey, Ryan Garcia fought Linares and earned that contender name. Now it's going to be, oh, Ryan fights in September. okay, we'll take a look at that. That's the way I'm seeing it. The response from some fans, and he's gonna have to put on a real show to get put back in front of some of those names. Is what I'm saying.
I think that the Fourth of July show, looking back at it right now, I don't really think he missed out on much. I don't think he missed out on much. If if it would have been during a normal time, yes, he would have missed out on a lot
Yeah.
because I think that that would have been a really big fight. But I don't think he missed out that much this time. Now, I think that if he does fight Luke Campbell, it's going to be a 2 million eyeballs on him.
Yeah.
Not literally, but everybody's going to be watching. Everybody's going to be in tune. He kind of is betting on himself.
Yeah.
If he looks great against Luke Campbell, it doesn't matter what happened in the last 3 4
Yeah.
months. He is gonna go. His star is gonna go through the roof. If he doesn't look good against Luke Campbell and loses, then he's gonna get that same heat and energy, going down type
Yeah.
of thing. Not saying that it's gonna ruin his career or anything like that, because one loss shouldn't,
No.
right? But he's betting the whole house
Yeah.
on making an example of Luke Campbell and telling everybody, look, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the fight I want to do. And if he beats Luke Campbell or he even knocks him out. Now, if he does that, I have to believe that in 2021 we get Ryan and Tank.
Yes.
And if it's a an arena situation where fans could go in there, they'll probably do it in Vegas and they'll put every bit of 40, 50,000 people. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And that'll be this generation of Duran Leonard, I would think.
Okay. Now.
I know that's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's putting a lot of pressure on them, but I really believe that.
Now, I know I said I feel like he might have missed our opportunity, but here's my other thing. I think he knocks Luke Campbell out. I really do. The reason being is I believe Garcia hits harder than Linares. And I believe he's faster and not crisper, I'll say faster with his punches than Lomachenko. And both of them knock down Campbell. I just think he's going to catch him with something real fast and real clean that Campbell hasn't seen before. Linares has fast hands. He is strong. I just think the youth is on the side of Garcia to where I do think he knocks Luke Campbell out and makes that statement that he believes he is. Just to me, the reason I feel he might have missed a shot is because, as you said, let's say he wins, but he looks like he had too much problems, barely pulls in, or it's a controversial decision, but he's given it. Well, see if he would have taken the 4th of July fight against a lesser opponent, look good, fights at the end of the year, he's got a big support behind him. He struggles, see what I mean? See, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready, this and that. But I really do think he's going to knock Campbell out. Campbell, as you said with Joyce, he looks like a really good fighter, but he's gotten his shots and just hasn't gone over that hump. And I think that this is the perfect fight for Ryan, and I believe Ryan's really, really going to show out that day. He's young, so as a fan, I get frustrated because I want to see him, because I honestly I want him to shut up his haters, just because I believe he has the goods, but when he does what he does, sometimes it's like, I mean, you kind of agree why people get upset with him. You kind of understand. But he's going to be one of those fighters of this generation that you're going to love him or you're going to hate him. There's going to be no in between. And I worked for Floyd, so it's probably
I was just gonna say it sounds like a guy named TVE that goes by TVE, right?
Exactly. So, hey, and then what a better way to really come onto the scene is if he fights Floyd's protege.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the other fights I want to talk about, Valdez Berchelt. Valdez
Ooh.
didn't look too impressive last week, but he also did fight a guy who had never been stopped and has been in there with real solid, tough competition, and he dropped him 3 times. As we seen from people talking, he looks like he's caught in between where he wants to be old Valdez and where he wants to implement what Chepo's showing him. When you look at that fight, though, with Berchelt, what are your opinions on that fight? How do you see that
Uh,
going?
I think that Valdez tries in the beginning to fight smart against Berchelt, kind of feel out his power, see if he could take it. Maybe stick to the outside a little bit. But once those middle rounds come in, and I think at that point is when we'll see the real fight break out. Now, is he going to beat Berchelt in that game? I don't think so.
Oh,
Berchelt is he's a big dude. I seen him when he wasn't fighting, and he wasn't fat. It's just that he's a big dude
yeah,
live, and so I think that it's going to be a really really good fight once that happens. I just don't think that Valdez is big enough to kind of meet toe to toe with him like that. But he may prove me wrong. I mean, he might go in there and handle his business. It's just hard to see that
yeah.
right now. Looking from the outside looking in right now, it's hard to see him, outmatching Berchelt. But then again, we haven't seen Berchelt like fight late,
Yeah.
in a fight. And so if Valdez takes him into deep waters at this point of his career, does he run out of gas?
Uh,
So we don't know.
yeah,
We don't
and
know.
it's a tough fight for me to see Valdez winning, but I definitely can when I think about Berchelt will be hit, and we haven't seen him get hit real solid by a real big puncher. And no matter what you think of Valdez, if he hits you with that left hook, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna sting. As you said, middle to late rounds. If he lands that left hook, what's Berchelt gonna do? Or maybe Berchelt gets discouraged, like he's so used to just blowing the guys out of there. Valdez, I mean, I seen him in person fight with a broken jaw for 8 rounds. If Berchelt's hitting him with his best shots and Valdez is just there 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds, maybe Berchelt thinks, what do I have to do to get him out of here? He's a big puncher. He's strong, as you said. He can fight. But if Valdez brings him into those deep rounds and starts boxing him and throws in his left hook in there, what is Berchelt gonna do? And that's what interests me. It's definitely not out the realm of possibility for Valdez to pick up the win. Berchelt will obviously be the favorite, but I could definitely see him winning. I think it's going to be hard for him to win, but I don't discredit Valdez at all. He hasn't lost yet. As we all know, a fighter who hasn't lost yet doesn't know what it feels like, so they're going to do everything they can to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great fight though.
Oh
Either
yeah,
way.
no doubt. I mean, it's been said, you put 2 Mexican fighters in the ring, let them go all out. We might get this generation's Barrera Morales. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see it. Now, one of the last few questions. You've been doing this for a while now. What's the most impressive moment from a fighter that you've seen over, let's say, the last 10 years? And I don't mean like, oh, that was a nice win. Maybe the fighter showed up when people thought he wasn't, or it was an upset that you didn't know that fighter had that in him.
Man, you put me on the spot there. Man, I'm trying to think here. You know, I think that Ward Kovalev won. Ward Kovalev won. Is it? I pick one in the most recent years. Ward Kovalev won. I didn't. I thought that Ward was going to be a lot more dominant than that,
Yeah,
and and it surprised me that Kovalev took it to him like that.
yeah,
Even though I knew Kovalev was good, but I for sure thought, Andre Ward, Super Six champ, this guy, he's gonna handle Kovalev, but it surprised me. It surprised me that Kovalev, had the success that he had in the first fight, and I still think that he beat him the first fight.
On that one,
Not by much, but
yeah,
I thought he beat him.
on that one, I see it all three ways. I see the draw. I see the win for either one. But I will say I was very impressed by Kovalev's jab. He out jabbed for the most part a master jabber in Ward, and yeah, I see where you're going with that one. That was, I mean, Ward. You were like, okay, he's not gonna get to an exchange. He's gonna box circles around him, and then you're sitting there by the sixth and seventh round thinking, okay, when is this gonna change? And hey, it was a great fight though. And the second
Yeah.
fight, honestly, I was impressed with the way Ward ended that fight because it was close, but I mean, I didn't know he had that type of closer in him. Once he seen him hurt, he jumped on him, and Kovalev's a hard hitting fighter, so most guys probably would have been okay. Go to the body, 1, 2, move back. Ward just put on an assault until that was it, and it looked that different because it looked low, but I mean also it did look like Kovalev wanted to get out of there too. So
It was gonna be over anyway.
yeah,
One way
what
or another, it was over. When he hit him with that straight right hand, it was over at that point.
once those legs buckled like that, oh yeah, and yeah, he Kovalev was I'm done like at that point. So yeah, for me, I have a lot of different ones, but I'll also go recent and I'll go with Kovalev when he fought Elider Alvarez in the rematch.
Mm.
Just because that game plan worked to perfection, and again, his boxing skill was on display, and he won a clear decision.
Yeah. Man, that was something. I saw
Uh,
that on that was an HBO telecast,
no,
wasn't it?
ESPN. He
No,
lost on the
ESPN.
HBO, and the rematch was on ESPN.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's right. That's
yeah.
right.
Now,
Wow.
what's the best fight you've been at in the last 10 years?
Ooh, man, you hit me with these on the spot ones.
Hey, I like to ask everybody the good ones.
um, there was a fight. I don't know if it was the best fight that I've been to, but I will say the first fight I've ever been to because that was like, the um, my introduction to going to a live fight. Just period was James Toney against Rockman in Atlantic City.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a
Yeah,
big one.
I was yeah, I was there for that. And uh, when I tell you, I've never heard shots like the ones that these guys hit themselves with. I'm talking about you can hear those punches all the way at the top of that arena. That's how hard they were hitting each other. They were grown men hitting each other hard, and I was like, man, this is something else. But it was a really good fight, and I enjoyed the atmosphere and everything. And that was my first live fight, so I give it to that.
Yeah, okay. And it's funny. Mine's not at that level, but this is where I tell people why I watch every fight at any point because you never know which who you're gonna see or
Hmm.
who's in the ring. Um, the one I seen in person was Andy Reese, Lemoore, California, about 4.5 years ago. That was the main event. He fought a last minute replacement. He won, but it was it was just it was what it was. To me, it's why I tell people I watch every single fight when I get there because you never know. I mean, it hit me last year when I'm sitting there watching him fight Anthony Joshua for the title. I was sitting there telling people, the first fight I covered was Andy Reese. He fought in a little casino outside that probably had 500 to maybe 1,000 people, and I seen him fight. And that, as you said, the punches, they were loud. One of the first fights on that card, I actually had my fiance with me. Uh, One of the fighters punched and broke his arm, and we seen it and heard it. And you know, when you're that close to the ring, what you see on TV does not compare. Because I heard crack, and I heard a scream, and then I seen his arm, and oh man, I turned to the side. I was like, oh no. I was like, I would have rather seen that on TV because you hear it, and I mean, that sound is etched in my brain for the rest of my life. But
Wow.
yeah, cards like that, I appreciate. I don't mind if it's a little card or a big card. The Valdez versus Quigg is the biggest card I've been to, just because it was outside of my home area. But I enjoyed it. It was a good fight. And then the one where I seen you at last year with Ray Vargas and Kameda. And see, that's also another funny one. Kameda was the actual first champion that I've ever interviewed, ever. He was like my second or third interview, but he was the first world champ that I interviewed. And it was weird. Like, I was like, yo, I talked to this guy on the phone a few years back, and he actually recognized me. Like, he seen me when everybody was talking. He looked out during the weigh-in, and one of his team people came up and was like, he wants to know if your name is Michael Reza. And I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, and then he looks at me. He's all, bueno, because you know he speaks fluent Spanish. So that's how I did the interview. So he was like, oh, bueno, hey, and I was like, oh, hey, how you doing, man? And it was weird, but it was cool. Like, those moments really hit me where I'm like, man, I'm really doing this. Like, I'm really out here doing this. So fights like that. And also, we seen the big upset on that one with Ronnie Rios and Diego De Loya, which you actually had called when we were outside talking about. So that was pretty funny. It was weird for me because I was right behind Diego's family. Oh, so, yeah, I couldn't say it. I was just sitting there the whole time, like, and they're like yelling, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna say nothing. And I'm like looking at my sister and my brother, and I'm like, hey, that's his family. Shut up. So,
and it's funny. You talk about showing up to the arena early. I got to a fight. I had my buddy Colin Morrison, who writes for Spitballing, and he lives in Scotland. So he sends me a message, and he goes, "Hey, there's this kid that's fighting. He's 5-0. Mind you, he lives in Scotland, right?" Mm-hmm. He says there's this kid that's fighting that's 5-0. You should take a look at him. Let me know what you think. His name is Ryan Garcia. And you know, he came into the ring. There was maybe like 25 people in the arena, you know, to include myself. So, and from there, you know, the rest is history. I was like, man, this guy is something right here. You know, met his dad there, and you know, we started kind of communicating that way, and you know, just the rest is history.
Yeah, and things like that, like me. To the people that haven't, I hope you guys do get to see this man fight in person one day. Is Better BF, one of my favorite fighters to watch. When the card was made when they had in Fresno when Jose Ramirez fought Mike Reed, Better BF was the co-main. And I remembered, same way as you said, I have a friend, Rob Taboot, Boxing Social out there in England. He goes, hey, let me know what you see from him in person. I've heard everything. He looks like he hits hard. When I tell you he was doing a shadow boxing and I could hear the wind coming from his punches, my God, I was just sitting there like, okay. And his fight wasn't all great, but at the end, my fiance took a picture of his opponent when he was on the ground after a body shot, and you could see the pain on his face. Like, he looked straight at the camera when she snapped that picture. And yeah, I mean, now look at Better BF's more than likely the best light heavyweight in the world, and that's where he won his world title. But it was one of those ones, as you said, you get a message, hey, check this guy out. Yeah, he was more up there, but he still was probably more known to only hardcore fans. Now he's been on HBO, DAZN, ESPN. He's been on all of these channels that more fans know who he is. And when I tell you that man hits hard, he hits hard.
Yeah, and nobody wants to fight him.
Yeah, and hey, but he does have a comeback match right coming in Russia, right? From ESPN.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I read something like that
yeah,
that he's doing that
yeah.
like a stay
So
busy fight or whatever.
yeah, well that's good. I mean, at this time right now, like I heard people complaining about Sean Porter's fight. I'm like, man, Sean
Yeah.
Porter ran through a who's who of the division. Now he could take a stay busy fight now and then when
Absolutely.
when you fight number one at the time, Keith Thurman, number one at the time, Earl Spence, top three, Danny Garcia, top 12, Andre Berto. You know, you're okay, man. And then the fighter that
Yeah.
nobody wanted to fight, Tanugas, you took him on too. Go
Hmm.
ahead, man. Go take your stay busy
Yeah.
fight. I have no issue with that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so he deserves it. I'm hopeful to see him back in the ring against one of the top fighters again, and we'll see how that goes. Well, Abraham, I know it's kept you on here for about an hour. Bro, I want to thank you for coming on, man. As I've told you guys in all the tweets and all the posts, it's one of the best and most knowledgeable men in boxing,
Yeah, I
hands
appreciate
down.
that, man.
And right now, before we sign off, man, go ahead and let everybody know where to follow you. Obviously, get a shout out to New York Fights, but let them know where to follow you and how to get in touch with you.
First, Mike, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it greatly. You can follow me on Twitter at AbeG718. You can follow NY Fights at NY Fights on Instagram and on Twitter. Shout out to Mike Woods, who runs NYFights.com.
Definitely, definitely. And as you guys always know, want to give a shout out to Uniquely Yours for the banner, Notorious Graphics for the t-shirts they designed, Kelly Smoke Shop number 4, North Maple Avenue, right next to, across the street from some churches, Maple, Illinois. You know where it's at, guys, by now. And also Dirt Magnus Janitorial, 559-374-7112, home, office, or business. Again, guys, this has been 26 Sports. This is episode 16. I want to thank you guys for following along on this Monday night. It's been a pleasure to have my man Abe Gonzalez on again. Definitely going to look to have you on a lot more consistently, especially with the fights coming back.
Yep.
Shout out to everybody that was in the chat tonight. Ringwalk John, Marisol, and Knockouts with Nika. You already know. Shout out to you as well. We're going to get you on soon. Everybody have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. I'll have Combate Americas, David Duran on. MMA is back for this one. So you guys have a great evening, and shout out to everybody out. Good night.